time is 6:33, so I'll call the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, May 19th, 2022 to order. We'll first go through a regular business meeting agenda. For the invitation, we've got Pastor Brian Boyles. And then they have the Special Needs Ministry is going to lead us in the pledge.
Some of them are already out there.
Yep.
They're very excited.
They're excited.
They are, yeah.
And then we've got the proclamation for Clerk's Week. We've got the minutes. We've got 2 first readings on public hearing first readings. Anybody have any questions on either of those at this point? Nope. So we'll just be waiving the first reading and placing on the May 23rd agenda. And then we have 2 nuisance actions, Dollar General and Dollar Tree. Any questions on those? And that will be the meeting. Okay. Any correspondence? City Attorney's report?
Mayor, we will need an executive session for potential litigation this evening. And also, I am prepared to talk about the alcohol liquor stores if we have time.
So I thought we've got a long work session agenda, or at least a lot of items. I don't know how long the discussion will take on those. So if we've got time after, we can go through some of the information he sent us. If not, if we don't have time tonight, then we'll have it on the work session for the next meeting.
Okay.
But of course, email Jay in the interim if you've got questions, or a lot of the points that he's got in that draft can be changed. So this is just what he heard in some of our discussions that he put in the draft. So all of that is subject to change. Update of ongoing projects.
We'll get through this pretty quickly. Town Center progress, the deck is very close to a CO. We have a couple more walkthroughs this week and then a final punch list walk. The business center, the design is continuing. We had a little lighting issue, but we're going with the TSW lighting. We would have had to have had 800 individual hanging light bulbs if we'd gone with Thrive's. You guys have been to his facilities. He likes hanging light bulbs. Well, it didn't meet lighting code. Suffice it to say, we're going with the cheaper, better plan. The market should be out to bid either at the end of this week or next week. The pavilion, we have a call with Michael Kidd later this week. Then we'll set something up with the mayor and council. He's very close with all of his manufacturers there. The mosaic bench, I think you saw some of the initial work. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
It is unbelievably
Yeah, it really is.
close to real life.
Yep.
And
Nice frog.
and so she's moving on. Sanitation recycling is pretty clear. This is going to be an ongoing discussion. We've got a lot of options to reduce the general fund subsidy to the sanitation fund. We talked about a lot of those in the budget meetings that we had. We just need to probably have a work session when you get a better feel for it in your minds there. Whenever you're ready, Jay and Craig, and we can have that meeting and provide all the information you need. Sidewalk improvements, as I said, Larry has lowered his cost for the first 2 projects. Still don't have an exact number yet. He's working with the DDA on a lot of work that has been bid over at Cobblestone. He's working on the GTIB project at North and Wisteria. He's working on some of the pricing that we got for the Grove. and he's putting his sidewalk numbers together. So we'll probably have a call Wednesday to get an update on all that. So it's the usual 9 o'clock call. Anybody can be on that who is interested.
There will be one Wednesday, right? Is
What's
what-
that?
There will be one Wednesday, as far as you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Neighborhood beautification, the contractor Visionscapes, I think, has done a good job on the flowers, changed them up a little bit. I think, Barbara, you're closer to having a committee set up, or you're pushing that a little harder. And Dave, we need an Oak Road cleanup day. If we can pick a date and get it advertised out there. We have not done that in a while. ARPA funds and uses. You did see an updated ARPA list. And really the only one in the budget right now is the $300,000 for the, to help the general fund out. And so there could be more discussion there. We have all the department director requests in their 5-year capital request list, and Matt and I will organize those and get those out to you, so you'll have a chance to look at that. We'll try to fit those in with the ARPA funds and what we've got general fund wise.
The 300,000 is for stormwater, right?
300,000 is for the salary offset.
Okay, all right.
Briscoe Park progress, Lisa's here, and Matt attended. I had a Mother's Day function and couldn't go Saturday. I don't know if anybody was at Family Fun Day, but it was unbelievably successful. There were so many people, some vendors ran out of food, a lot of folks there. Really nice day. I know it was windy, but
It was windy and the weather looked suspect, but it was, but I think it held off. I mean, it was, yeah, I went by around, what time did you get there?
I got there about by 12:31.
I got there
About
probably
12:31.
I don't remember.
12 or so, and stayed about an hour. But it was, I mean, there was a steady stream of people coming, so, yeah,
Good.
looked good. Good job.
it seemed like it was gonna be a good combination of activities and booze and food and,
Well,
so-
even like the vendor booths that were there, they all had like a game or an activity or something to engage the kids and, so, yeah. that was good.
We have, meetings are ongoing with Croft and Oscar, looking at some value engineering changes to the maintenance facility. I think Matt and Lisa have, identified a couple of things which will greatly reduce the $3 million estimate closer to our $1.3 or $1.4 million budget. We'll, as soon as, I think there's a phone call later this week to talk about some of those items. We'll get those back to you, but I feel good after hearing the conversation there. Basically, there's an item in any bid document, or this is an estimate in this case, called general conditions. And that's mobilization and how long your team is on the job. Well, they put in their general condition numbers that started running immediately and went to the end of construction. If you're waiting 6 months on a building, you're paying general conditions that are way, way too high. So Matt and Lisa have a way, obviously, we're probably gonna bid the building separately, get it in, and then the contractor will start their general conditions and their work. Start that clock running at that time. So there will be, we don't know yet exactly how much, but there will be savings there. Zoning category review, the work session we had provided a lot of focus to Jason and the staff. We still need the input on the specific allowed uses in the town center. I think we've got an item on the agenda tonight. You all were gonna talk about what you felt like really needed to be changed in that, in some of those use categories. Package sales referendum, Jay has sent out the information for everybody to review. And it does include just one license, the
One license
ordinance,
for
just one
13 is
license.
what, 13,000 is what I heard.
And then economic development activities, Matt and his team hosted a really successful Shark Tank last week. How many proposers did we have, Matt?
We had 10.
10. And it's pretty amazing how creative these kids can be. So that went very well, had a lot of participation from
Heard a lot of
from
good things.
schools.
Excellent job. Yes. Gotten a lot of compliments.
So, good. But that's all I have, so I know we've got a big agenda here.
Next item is discussion of a flashing sign for Newton's Crest. Solange?
Yes, oh, well, you can pass it around, I have it on my phone, if that's,
Did you email them out?
Yes.
so everybody should, yeah, everybody should have it, okay? Yeah, now, for who?
I can
Okay, what I'm looking for actually, if it's possible for us to put a flashing light on the northbound lane, right before the exit of Newton's Crest, where Newton's Crest exits, or 124. That is a horrible, dangerous exit to get out from. It's super dangerous. Because the cars are going 45 miles an hour. The people who are coming out the subdivision, they can't see the traffic coming. They have to pull all the way out. I know because I tried it. I have to pull all the way out. My whole nose has to be basically in the street so I can see what's going on. Okay? So the subdivision sign that's there is blocking the view. So you can't really, it functions like a wall, if you will, and you can't really see what comes there until you're already in the lane. Somebody's going to get hurt. So I feel that maybe, and see, I know none of us were maybe there when the subdivision was built, or maybe some of the old timers were, but I don't know personally how planning and zoning could have okayed that subdivision to be built in that way. It's dangerous. And I understand that there is another exit somewhere in the back of the subdivision that people can take, but what about the people that live towards the front? So, you know, do they have to drive every single day all the way to the back just to exit? So I just want to see a flashing light there like we have at ER Snell, because I passed it and I passed many times, and I see the flashing light vehicle entering or truck entering.
Like the truck entering?
Yes, so if you look, I had sent the pictures.
We've got one on Pinehurst too.
There's one in Springdale.
Yeah.
Into Green
Because
Valley.
it is like giving a warning, hey, look, the cars are coming out.
So if a car's,
Somebody-
what you're asking for is if a car's coming out of the subdivision, that there's some
It needs to be a little, yeah, so they can,
On 124
yes,
saying car entering,
Yes.
vehicle entering.
because it is dangerous.
'Cause
It
that-
is a super sharp, that wall is, I don't know who built it like that, but it is dangerous.
Does that have
Do
to
you-
be state DOT for 124? Yeah,
Yeah,
so is that something we can just ask for? And
we can,
Send a letter or something, Butch would know better.
Yeah, we could ask the district office. They had to approve that curb cut there. They had to approve it.
That's a long time ago.
I don't know how old Newton Crest is.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
it was before.
Probably,
so it's,
yeah, before the,
I'm saying
before it was
before
4
anybody maybe,
lanes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Before it was widened.
Yeah, it was before 2005, so that was probably a
Because the
totally
widening.
different situation when it was built.
Looking,
2003?
because I feel,
those bushes.
go ahead, Greg, I'm sorry, you were talking. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just feel that we need to be responsible for that, since it's in our city limit. and
Well,
somebody
let's be
zoning it,
careful with our words.
kind
Let's be
of,
careful with our words, because
Kinda,
it is
sorta.
a DOT state highway,
yes.
so they bear
But
responsibility, but I
can make
think
the request.
we can
I
make
think
a
we can make it
request.
and
Yeah.
just sit behind them and so
Yeah.
as to get it done.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
and
just scary to come out of
Looking
Yeah,
at
it.
if
the
you want to
picture-
write up a letter, I can sign it, or,
looking at the
Okay,
picture
good.
that Solange provided, somebody planted a hedgerow along the frontage on 124, which makes it worse because,
Everything is blocked.
yeah, so that hedgerow probably needs to come out. Is that something we would handle through code enforcement, tell them they need to remove that? Sure you can. Just drive out there and,
We can do anything.
yeah, see, this isn't an issue, that isn't an
Yeah.
That's in
issue.
the right of way.
Yeah, but this
That
is
shouldn't, that
added,
shouldn't be there.
yeah,
Right.
I
because,
think that's in the right of way.
Yeah.
Period. See, when you were talking about sight distance, all they're required to do is have a clear zone from the right of way. That's not in the right of way, the sign,
right,
so that's none
right,
of their.
but that's,
So,
that makes
so
it
you're talking about the
worse.
wall?
The hedges, the
The
hedge.
head, oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, the sign too is out of the right.
Because it's,
But we don't-
Okay, you can
We
see
don't
it.
check for sight vision outside of the clear zone, which is done at the time of the development.
Mm-hmm.
The DOT approves the curb cut and then the access, but the sign has to be set back a certain amount
Right,
of feet from the
because you
right
can
of way.
see
Yeah, then
anything.
that one met code at the time. It's 15 feet.
But we could,
DOT
but we
did-
could make them take down the hedges.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if it's a state right of way, yeah, they're not allowed to be in the right of way.
Yeah,
Right.
DOT doesn't look kindly on any type of obstruction in there, or in the right of way.
But I mean, that's not our right of way to govern. You can tell them that, you
Okay.
can ask them to take them down, but they don't have to. It's not our.
Right. Okay. So we will do, go ahead, I'm
Those
sorry.
haven't been there forever. Those look like they were clearly planted after that original planting.
Maybe
Yeah, I
somebody
don't-
did
I
a
don't-
beautification, something sometime?
Just a little too close.
Yeah, and I don't think that was part of the planting, just looking at the design from the aerial view.
so we'll have, Butch will write up a letter,
Okay.
I can sign it, we'll send it, and then if you guys can just try to keep
Keep
track,
us-
and we
yeah.
can talk to, keep
Oh, I'll
us,
remind them.
yeah, on Kelvin,
So-
their district engineer.
What's his
And,
name?
So would DOT
Kelvin.
be the,
Kelvin.
would
Kelvin
DOT be the
Canyon.
one to recommend removing the shrubbery,
No.
or would,
No,
Let me look
I'm
in the
thinking of
code and
somebody
see if
else.
there's any kind of clear zone.
Okay.
There's something about the clear zone in there, but.
'cause
we
that
pretty
might-
much defer
that would help a lot.
Responsibility back to the governing bodies of the properties.
Yeah.
What's Kelvin's last name?
Mullins.
Mullins. Okay. All right, next item is, Gretchen, you're at faith-based classes at the Active Adult Center.
I just really wanted to get the city attorney's input on this. That there are a couple of classes that are offered. One is called Managing Money God's Way, I think. That's. Pardon me?
Christian way.
No, I think it
No.
says God's Way.
I'm pretty sure it's a
Yeah.
God's way.
And the other one was Bible study classes. And I just wondered what you think about that.
I think Butch actually has some more information on this.
Yeah, I've talked to, I sent you an
I
email,
saw the email.
and I've talked to Lisa and let her do some research on that. The Bible study is a total misnomer. I mean, basically, it's almost grief counseling, where we offer a room for people to get together who've had a loss or
Okay.
a tragic issue, and they just talk.
So it needs maybe to be renamed.
Lisa, I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to Kathy or not, but we,
We're gonna rename it.
you know,
It's not
we
always
could
just
definitely,
grief, it's just if somebody wants to come and just share and just be with somebody. The most they've ever had in there is 4 people.
Okay,
It's
okay.
usually 2 people, but it is the title is totally misleading. It really is non-denominational, it really has really nothing to do with that at all.
So call it something support group.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll probably
yeah.
explain it
Something
to either like
Or coffee,
Or,
yeah.
or, yeah, well,
Some
something,
kind
of
something,
coffee
change
time
to
or
something
something.
else, yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely, misleading totally by the
Yeah.
title that it
Okay.
has right now, for sure.
Okay.
And the other one is also member directed. I mean, there's a volunteer leader who went to a Dave Ramsey investment course and brought the information back. And we don't know, Lisa, we don't know if, in the course of conversation, several people said, I'd like to know more about that, or we don't know how it became.
Yeah, I think it was the member attended a class and liked it, learned a lot from it, so then he came back and talked to Kathy and Tracy and said he thought that there were other members that could benefit from it. Could he just, relay that information? And it's similar to a Dave Ramsey, it's that kind of setup. I'll tell you right now, nobody's registered for it. So but it's non-denominational, it's not, that title, again, very misleading. But he's not a financial advisor at all, he's just he is already a member, went to it somewhere else, felt like it was good information, he learned a lot, and he just was wanting to relay that to others.
Okay.
So again, title kind of misleading and.
Well, do we need to be careful about,
I was gonna say, this is my opinion, is if members are allowed to use space and put on whatever classes they want to in this space, we can't really dictate whether they can do it for religious purposes or not, because then we're kind of stampering religious speech. We just have to keep it open to all religious
Okay.
aspects. So if if a member wants to have a Bible study in there, it's open to the public, they're not closing the doors, we're not taking a fee from it, we're not having any involvement in it, I think we kind of have to let them
okay,
use that space.
okay. I just wanted to be sure we weren't getting into any
Because I assume
gray
members
area.
are allowed to use the space if they
They
sign
can
up.
if they request, if we have it available.
Yes.
And in general, we temper, we do try to stay very neutral. We
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
don't, it's very rare that we will have a specific church come and say, can we use your area, or can we do this? We generally stay away from that
Yeah.
if we can, but this was, like you said, this was kind of member-driven. And so trying to just appease them and their requests, that was kind of where both of
Okay,
these came from.
sounds good. I just trying to keep us out of trouble.
I think you're okay on this one.
Okay, item D, Meritage Development, Mr. Warner.
We had approved a site plan on the development for Meritage over at 124 across from Ashford Lake, is that the right?
Ashford Lake,
And
yeah.
evidently Georgia DOT required a D-cell lane, and it couldn't be in the location to align the drive with the other
Street across the
street across the street. And
My
so they
neighborhood.
moved it down to the far end of the property, and in doing so, they put a non-detention pond, it's called something else now, directly across from the roadway. And we already had citizens who relied on us to make sure that the impact on their neighborhood was as minimal as possible. And now we have, and it may only be temporary, but we have for all intents and purposes, a detention pond there. I discussed it with Jason and Butch, and I think there may be something that'll change from the way it looks now.
Yeah, here's some pictures of, if you're unfamiliar of what it looks like now, you can pass this down. That's from the Ashworth Lakes, and, minded that is, unfinished. And it is a bioretention basin, and after, it's a bioretention basin for a couple of reasons, but after talking to Larry again, just kind of, solidifying my knowledge of the, stormwater processes. Initially, when these plans are drawn, they're only accounting for the two water retention purposes. One is water quality, meaning to let it sit there and let the sediment settle out. The other one is stream bank protection, meaning that they have to slow it down so it doesn't flood out the stream as they let it back out. And now, as of about 3 years ago, that's edged through the state and then through Gwinnett County Stormwater Management Manual. And the cities require these things called bio-retention basins, and that's for runoff reduction. So to reduce the amount of runoff to the environment. So before it gets to the detention pond, it gets caught in this bio-retention basin, and there's a pair of them, one in the front and one in the back. Basically that align with these streets and catch all the water. Let me see if I've got it. That's the reason. So as it comes down here, it goes into the
What is
bio-retention
yours?
pond.
Yours is different than
No,
mine.
it's same.
And,
We have
so
a
basically,
different angle.
they're not
Okay, this is-
required unless the soils can, provide that benefit. It just so happens because these are lowland soils that they're able to basically drain, out of the pond. So the way it works is there's a stalk on it, you can kind of see in that picture. They come in and they use all kinds of plantings and fabrics and, stuff that you would find, I guess, in like a marsh maybe is a good way, but stuff that's good with water. The water rushes down, fills that up first, and then goes through a treatment process up into a certain height. It's a really big storm, can't handle all that at once, so some does go down to the pond, but the whole thing, the whole concept is the water is treated, returned to the ground there in the pond or around the basin, and then sent down the stream anything that's left from the big detention pond. So in this case, the soils were amenable to that, so they were required to do it. So right now, we're probably in about, I wouldn't even say halfway through with that. They still have to plant the entire thing with plants and put the top of the little, did you see the cement piece? There'll be a top, and then they'll fill that up another 3 feet with like permeable soils and marsh soils so that it can filter even more. 'Cause it's not gonna filter anything with all that mud in it. There's also a planting plan. There'll be some shrubs and bushes, and I can get all this stuff to you guys too. There, and like I was telling Councilman Warner, if they're not happy, if we're not happy with the way it looks, we'll just maybe put more. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be a long-term issue. It does look pretty awful now, but so does that older home, you know, I think that's.
Yeah.
It's just taken them a long time. They move really
Yeah.
slow. It happened at Gladstone, and I don't know what it is. Definitely not us, but I mean, could be all kinds of stuff. They're just getting water in the other day, so they're still a good ways away from actually plating this thing, I think. But what you do see is you come out of the building pads to the left. You're looking towards Ashworth Lake, and there's a little dog park, and then there'll be the bio-retention basin, probably 10 feet in from the end of the property lines.
So my issue that I want to put before y'all is we approve every rezoning tied to a development plan. And that development plan shows the detention facilities kind of hidden out of the way towards the back of the property. Regardless of what the new regulations are, we did not approve putting a detention pond, a biofiltration, whatever, at the front of the property. So what we have is a substantial deviation from what we approved. And I understand for the developer, he already dug out the entranceway, brought that elevation down, preparing to put his roadway in there, and then had to move it to the other end. So he already had a hole, and it costs more to fill the hole back up than it's already a hole there, so now it's a detention pond. And I have an issue going forward as we look at developments, if there are regulations that allow detention ponds to be put, or whatever you want to call them, in the public right-of-way where it's visible. We've always tried to make sure that they have the least impact possible on the surrounding communities, that it's not seen from the roadway. I know they get planted. You can drive by 78 and 124 intersection, see how beautifully planted that pond is. So I understand the whole purpose of it. My problem is the location. and when we approve, sometimes changes have to be done, but to me, having a detention facility at the front of the property, directly across from the neighborhood that we were trying to buffer, creates an issue for me.
So what's your proposal to get
Is there any other alternative that we can look at for this, location of the pond? And-
Not at this point unless, they've already, all the pipe is in. And just to clarify a little bit, they didn't start development of the property and then the DOT swapped them. They had to get that done on the front end.
On the front end, so
And
that was always,
the reason the pond is in there in that place because it runs down naturally. The thing here, I believe that caused this one to occur is, unless you want, the easiest way to fix it is to require them to submit a fully approved hydrology study on their concept plan, so that you know exactly how it's gonna work. Because what happened is they came in, like I said, the bioretention or the runoff reduction only has to happen if the soils can accept it. And usually 80% of the time it's got a lot of clay, stuff that doesn't infiltrate, so they bypass that and they don't have to do it for the code, but they have to prove they can't do it. And that's part of the big hydrology study that they do for something like this. So they may have, in a more clay type situation, they may have not had to do them at all by law, but this one they did, and under number 1 on the conditions that we do, it says substantial deviation and to meet codes with the DOT, the county, and all of our stuff. So under that, that's kind of where the change occurred. So the only way to really fix it is to have the developers or the regional, whoever, the applicants, turn in a full hydrology study. Completed, approved by our guys, with their concept plan for these not to pop up. Or condition them to come back. Every time you get one within a certain amount, or however you want to do it. But that's the only way to know for sure, because people, if you don't require a full reviewed, approved engineering plan, then you're not going to get there, because this, that's not happening.
this has been a really tough process for my neighborhood. They were really opposed to this project in the first place, and now they've, gone from the hope of having a traffic light with the entrance off at Ashworth Lake there at that point. Now we're looking at a very unattractive structure right now, and that's gonna be the detention. And when we pull out the Lenora Church side and see the preserves, we've got a lovely view of another detention pond, and it just, it's hard, it's been hard to
That one won't
explain.
be nearly as open when it's all said and done. There's gonna be a dog park next door, a fence, we can have a bigger fence. But to fix it for next time, that's what you would have to do. I think it's gonna be worse looking at the houses up on that building.
Yeah, that's another
The
consideration,
detention
of course.
pond. And
but-
we can cover the pond with plantings, I feel like, and there's enough room there to get it done. But procedurally, there needs to be a mechanism that legally requires them to come back, that's passed and changed and adopted under the UDO, if you wanna go down.
Well,
So it really speaks to what a substantial variation
Right.
is. And
Yeah,
whether that
because-
needs to come back before council.
And I'm not comfortable making that kind of call, every time, it just needs to be in black and white. That's not a discretionary decision that I can make based on the code, because really wasn't any discretion in there. And that's the parts of number 1 that says all other codes have to be followed. So, when we reminded that, it's like, okay, we had to do this in the new code, just like the road. They had to move it to meet DOT. We can't challenge DOT, we can't.
right.
Well, and I totally understand that, but the elevation of that property runs from the southwest corner to the northeast corner, and this is, I'm not saying they don't need the secondary containment, whatever you want to call it. What I'm saying is, they chose to locate it here instead of spending the money to pipe it 50 feet further in the property, maybe swap the dog park or something. That's my issue. I do not want, I mean, at Scenic Point Development, we required all stormwater be subterranean, which is a great expense. And I understand that's commercial, it costs more, but we did
one
that
comes
because
out
we
fine.
didn't want to look at
Yeah.
detention ponds.
Yeah, I understand in general. I just think this circumstance isn't necessarily
Well-
gonna give you the awful, I think it's gonna be a lot better than you think now, when it's
Well-
done, but we can either, you know, for this one, we can either put the brakes on them, you guys can decide it's a substantial variation and then stop it, and that's where this is gonna have to go, or we can get them on the back end and try to have them, buffer it as much, but then after this specific case, we have to decide how you guys wanna handle it. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
What exactly did the conditions of the zoning say as far as substantial changes?
They don't, and I've been on this, the wrong side of this one before. I know it just well. It says, this is so-and-so development with this date will be developed in accordance with the plan, except for to meet all codes, regulations, and, you know, your standard number one, I've read it a million times and still can't recite it, but it says everything but fit to meet the code. And, that's kind of where, you know, typically, in the past, the case law for that has been an excess of more than was approved, like if you have 40 homes and they come in with 50, pump the brakes, because that's substantial, or they rearrange an entire frontage just for the purpose of generating more dollars,
Right.
or packing in. Normally, if it's less than, it doesn't require substantial change, and if it's related to a regulation, it's not a substantial change, unless it is. I mean, it's kind of, is it substantial? And, that's why,
Well,
with something like this, we have clear, and concise guidelines, so the developers know too. And you won't always know where the ponds are gonna be. Because they're legislating so heavily towards reduction, you're just trying to get to where they don't wanna put that pond in there, I promise.
So they worked through our consultant, Larry Ginn, to redevelop their plan once they got the DOT decision.
You know, not just that, the bioretention swales are a result of the requirement of the manual. And you only have to put them in if the soils can support them, and lucky winners, the soils support it, so they have to put it in. It's a very contentious policy because a lot of it requires multiple ponds, and you know, developers don't like building ponds, people don't like having ponds. But it does serve to filter the water and get the sediment out of the stream so it comes down, and you know, it's a good policy. Sometimes, you know, it just ends up
In the
on
wrong
the road
place.
based on topography. You know, they would probably like to keep it out of them too.
It's like, I know we've zoned, we've done some zonings before, tied to a concept plan that were dependent, you know, we wanted curb cuts here and here on the concept plan, and then the DOT comes back and says, no, you can't do that, you can only have one, and it could go here. Is that a substantial change that needs to come back to put the development in jeopardy for the developer side of things? And then a delay because it's gotta come back through, does that have to go all through the process or
Yes,
just
you
back
guys,
to the
if you
council?
guys need to see it, the planning commission needs to see it.
yeah,
So- But, I mean, that's what we're talking about, what do we
Right.
do, what's the trigger for it to
What's
have to
the-
come back to
and,
us?
and to me, the issue isn't the necessity of the additional detention facility. The issue is the location. And someone made that choice. I'm sure that was not the only suitable choice on the property for it. That's my issue. So I understand they're required to do it by law, and my issue is, as soon as that's triggered, they basically appear to have free reign to put it wherever it's most convenient for them. And seldom in our review, in our requirements, do we go with what's most convenient to the developer. We typically go with what is best for the community.
For the city.
And
the surrounding
the
neighborhoods.
aesthetics. And so I'm not 100%, I certainly don't want every applicant to have to put a full-blown hydrology study together for a property and grading plans. I know that's not feasible. The question is, at what point do we put our foot down and say, no, that's not what we agreed to?
I think we're there.
Well, I am definitely there on a pump the brakes, but again, this is my neighborhood and I'm hearing things directly from people. And I also voted no to this project, so in the interest of full disclosure.
So I'm not 100% sure how you cure it. Short of making our UDO onerously burdensome and then allow them to get a waiver on every project from mayor and council, which again just makes it a little higher bar before someone's going to come in. But we're the ones, whether it's the entrance to a neighborhood that was zoned in 2003, or whether it's a detention pond across from a facility, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years down the road, the people are going to look to us, why was that decision made? And they will assume that it was in our hands.
So what the staff needs though is clear direction on what becomes that substantial change, so that when it occurs again, that it gets handled appropriately the way this council wants, because this
Right.
council substantial is different than the next council.
Right.
Too.
For sure.
So there just needs to be clear direction.
I would say if the view from the street changes from what we approve, then it becomes substantial.
Or the view from an
Surrounding.
adjacent neighborhood.
Exactly.
The problem with this one is we don't really know what it's gonna look like when it's finished. Like, it could be so minimal, it's like we're looking at the Christmas tree Hatfield, you know, you can't really see the finished project. If we pump the brakes right now, they're just gonna stop. You know, we're gonna get sued probably, and then we don't know what it'll ever be. It just seems like, I understand procedurally what you wanna do in the future, and then how something looks needs to be defined too. I mean, that's how we handle things is, you know, technocratically to a degree. We understand, I know how all you guys feel about most of the issues on a site and what your hot buttons are and stuff. And I mean, honestly, I looked at that and really, more trees, more foliage, and thought it was a win. I mean, I just don't think it's gonna be some cumbersome bare Highway 78 detention pond. It's gonna be planted with trees and buffered, so.
Okay, with it, and it just worries me because the immediate description I got was there'll be a vinyl coated chain link fence and some plantings. And
I can't listen. Sorry.
so
You don't like vinyl coating?
No.
as
That's
long
for
as,
safety too, that's not for.
see,
Yeah.
there just doesn't appear to be much setback, and I didn't walk the site because clearly you could get killed over there trying to cross the street.
Oh, no.
No, I'm not as young as I used to be. I can't run across the street like that. But it looks like the setback isn't that far from the roadway for there to be much in the way of a planting.
It's good enough to plant some trees, 10 feet, 12 feet.
Yeah, but we need some assurance
But
they don't
yeah.
throw in two trees
We
with
hold
2-inch
all-
calibers.
We have all the power. We hold the COs. We hold the permitting process. Most of these people, short of spending $100 grand on something, want to make us happy. They want to make the residents happy. They're not here to oppose any good idea. I haven't even had the opportunity to speak with them about it. And typically we don't until the trees go in just to see what we're working with. And, heck, they probably put some kind of fence, opaque, whatever you want, if it's a big enough issue for council, I mean, they were more than happy to fix that man's yard in the back. These guys have deep pockets, they're not worried about a few trees.
So what do you think would happen if you went to them and told them this came up at our work session?
Huge
The
concern.
council's very
Send them a
concerned.
copy of the tape.
What do you want us to, I mean, I could probably.
And what exactly what are they gonna do in terms of planting around this pond so that they're gonna make us happy?
I can go, I can tell you what I think they'll say, what do you want? I mean, that's what they're gonna say, so whatever you guys want, you need to let me know so I can ask them, because they're not, like I said, this is a huge development for them, and a few trees. They don't want any bad will with the city, because we gotta work with them for another 3 years, because they'll be in there for 3 years working on that, at least 2.
But for me, the big concern is the fact that the swell for the bioretention pond is close enough to the street that it doesn't appear to give any room for a buffer, a planted buffer, because you can't plant.
It's hard to picture.
You can't plant, well, it's hard to picture, but you also cannot plant on the detention facility.
You do on these though, because it's
Okay.
not detaining, it's treating, so like I said, it'll fill up a certain amount, and then all the roots go to filtering and cleaning like a marsh, but anything that goes over a certain amount has to go to that pipe and to the big holding tank.
Okay.
So it'll be trees in there, and there's a description of what they'll plant there. I can just get them to do a planting plan, a buffer plan, something that I can bring back to you guys so you can feel better. And if that's not good enough when it gets put in, we can make them do more. There,
Okay.
you know, I mean, we can.
We're gonna need
even
to
if
leave it
that
at
means-
that.
Yeah.
We're at 7:20. We'll
Sorry.
be a short executive session before our meeting. So if we can, Jason, if you can do that.
I'll
if
get
it's
back
on
to
the
you as soon
plan.
as possible.
The UDO update items, has anybody come up with anything that they want changed on it?
I sent everybody a copy of the new categories that
yeah.
were put in place by Cherokee County. During our discussion
The
last
village
week
rent.
at the
that-
Gwinnett Municipal Association meeting, it became clear that if we don't do something before the next legislative session, plug your ears, it will be easier for them to pass legislation prohibiting us from doing so, because they will say, well, you had 2 years to do it and you didn't bother to do a thing. So now you're screaming and yelling that, so if we adopt within our UDO a separate category in the various housing districts that allow for rent, basically mirror language, maybe with more amenities, because it's basically an apartment complex at that point. Georgia Municipal Association, Gwinnett Municipal Association, will be in a better position to negotiate with legislators saying, wait, you're taking our rights away from us.
Again,
Okay, so if everybody could take a look at what Todd sent out from Cherokee.
Cherokee County stuff,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Cherokee,
and it's,
okay.
and I gave you the links
Yeah,
to their
uploaded.
presentation and everything else, which walks through every bit of it.
In the interest of time, we'll move the invocation scheduling to the next work session to go over that. On the SPLOST update, the only thing I wanna bring up on that, we're still waiting on the county for a draft agreement with them. But if you all can put on your calendar, June 7th, 3 o'clock,
It's public safety night.
GJAC. Well, this would be about an hour meeting at GJAC. This is a tentative date.
I'm
Very
not putting it in my
tentative.
phone then.
What will happen at this would be the meeting where all the cities have to have a quorum present at GJAC. We call in, to order all our meetings, and we all approve the, SPLOST agreements at that meeting. So I would just need to make sure that we had a quorum that could be at that meeting.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Tuesday,
That's public safety
Okay.
night, 6 to 8
Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And again,
Oh.
it's tentative.
p.m.
So, if y'all will keep a note of that. And then if we can have just a very short exec session, and then we'll have our meeting.
Barbara, I just want to remind you, I won't be at the next meeting.
Okay, I think I put that on my.
I think you put it on your calendar, yeah.
During the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Bender announced that certain matters should be discussed